Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So this is Triumph Speed T4 after 4 months and roughly 4,000 kilometers. So let's begin. It's been 5 months since I got this bike, and I've clocked in roughly 4,250 kilometers so far over the span of last 5 months. And I have some interesting observations about this bike, and there are some things I purely enjoy about this bike. In today's video, I'll talk about all of them. Firstly, let's talk about the on-road price and the delivery experience of this. So I purchased this in Bangalore, and the on-road price was about 2,74,000 rupees, and the delivery experience was very good. The staff was very professional. I even asked the showroom people to fill the tank with full tank petrol, and they were kind enough to do so. Of course, I paid for the extra fuel because the stock bike comes with only the reserve amount of fuel, which is about 3 liters or 3.5 liters. I didn't have to stop at any fuel station, and I could just go for a long ride right from the showroom. And I was super excited to do so as well. So the first impression was very good. I immediately fell in love with the way this bike handles, the agility, the nimbleness of this bike, and also the power that this offers. And those two are the points that I still find very exciting about this bike, even after 5 months and riding this for 4,000 kilometers. Because, see, it's so enjoying, Power delivery is phenomenal in this. At the same time, this is very nimble in cities. If you want to overtake or just have fun with this, it's very, very easy, and it's encouraging. It gives you that confidence to just push this bike a little more. Man, I love the power in this. See, if you take a test ride, you'll understand. Or if you already own this bike, then I am 100% sure that you'll be able to relate with this. Triumph or Bajaj Triumph has really nailed the engine. The engine and the chassis, they've nailed it with this bike. And the same applies to the Scrambler and Speed 400, because all of them pretty much share the same core components. I would say this has its own character, and I think they could have called this bike something else and not Speed T4, because it's not a mini version of Speed 400 for sure. There's hardly any difference, except for the features like traction control and engine immobilizer, and what else? The upside down forks and the power output, right? So this gives you an output of 31 Newton meter of torque and 36 bhp of power, but in no way this is underpowered. Right, so that is my personal experience. I've seen Speed 400 and Scramblers on highway, whenever I take this bike out for a long ride. Nowhere did I feel like, okay, this is a detuned version of the bike, and this lacks a little bit of power, or generally, what you would expect from a mini version. And the build quality is amazing. For the price, it's very much value for money. Pretty much every component in this bike is of very good quality. The metals and how they've integrated into this bike, and also the plastic components as well, like the mudguards, this speedometer, and these consoles as well. The buttons, everything. So they are all of very good quality. So you can really feel the quality of Triumph. The big bikes quality is something that you can find even in the entry level Triumph motorcycle, which is this Speed T4. So as you know, this comes with the same engine as the other 400 series bikes that Triumph offers. It's the same 398cc liquid cooled engine. Comes with 6-speed gearbox and a very smooth power delivery, I can say. It has a very linear power delivery in all the gears. But what I've noticed, over the long run is that the first 2 gears feels a little shorter because the engine, revs very quickly. And the sound, the exhaust note is very sweet. It's very bassy. So it has a very good road presence, in my opinion. So some minor things in terms of the build quality or the components are the indicators, right? So both the front and the back stock indicators that you get will fog up very quickly. In just few weeks it'll get fogged up. I'm not sure why that happens. I think it has a small leak or something, so that whenever it rains or whenever you get this bike washed, some of the water gets inside and it fills it up with moisture. So that is one thing which is slightly annoying, but I don't think that's a deal breaker. But one thing you'll notice is that the engine gets very hot, especially before the first service. I used to find the engine heat to be more, but seemingly that has reduced after the first service. I think that's because they changed the engine oil during the first 1,000 kilometers. The service center guys told me that the bike will have mineral oil and it's only of 1.5 liters that they'll add it, and after that it is about 2 liters or 2.5 liters that they put in during the first service. So the engine heat is something that you'll feel, especially during peak traffic when you're riding in the cities and when the engine is running for longer duration, especially for more than, let's say, 30 minutes or 40 minutes. The radiator fan kicks in. It keeps coming in and going depending on the engine heat. It's not a red flag in any way, but having said that, this is one of the smoothest engine you can find in this segment. So talking about comfort, the rider's triangle is pretty good. It is pretty upright. You have a slight lean angle towards the front. Otherwise, this has a very upright seating position. As I mentioned, this is very easy to handle. This moves very quickly. The chassis responds very quickly. The suspensions are great. The suspensions are very good. In fact, initially I used to find the rear suspension to be stiffer, but I changed the preload adjustment. I changed it from 3 to 2. So the stock preload adjustment comes at number 3. So that has given the rear suspension a little more action. And the front one, of course, is soft. It's not too soft, it is soft. It's sufficient, I can say. And this takes up all kinds of potholes and all the trademarks of Indian roads like a champ. You don't have to worry about reducing your speed or dodging any pothole like that, unless the pothole is like a well or something. I don't think you should really worry about any potholes in that sense. I'm just trying to show you. Okay, there are no potholes anywhere over here, but there is traffic. So many people point out that this lacks upside down forks in the front. That's a big letdown in this bike compared to Speed 400. But if you keep comparing this bike with Speed 400, then you might as well go for Speed 400. This has an identity of its own. Anyone who's planning to get any of these bikes, the first impulse is to do a comparison, and that is understandable. But you should understand that all these bikes have their own unique identity, except for Thruxton 400, of course. Triumph advertises Speed T4 as a city bike. I agree with them a little bit, but I also don't agree with them for the most parts. It's a 400cc engine. You don't need that much amount of power for city. This bike has higher capacity engine, and this also gives you higher power output. So that comes with the obvious downside of reduced mileage. So this gives you anywhere between 24 to 26 kilometer per liter in cities. And in highways, what I've noticed is that the mileage output can go up to 36, 37 sometimes. The instrument cluster has showed me 38 and all, sometimes, but it usually takes a couple of minutes to settle into an average mileage. So let me talk about the pros and cons of the Speed T4. The pros are that you get very good value for money. The build quality is amazing. the rider's triangle, the sitting position, the riding stance is very upright and it's very commanding. The power output is, of course, takes up the first spot in my opinion. And the handling, it's very agile, it's very nimble, it moves very quickly. Combine that with the power output, especially the torque, this is a very quick bike. Nowhere do you feel like this needs a little bit of time for this to take off. The braking is pretty good. You may have to use more of the front brake compared to the rear one. It's very soft in my opinion. It doesn't have the bite that you would expect. But the front one has a very good feedback, and this bike comes with ABS. So one issue that Speed T4 has, with the braking are the brake pads. You can see a lot of complaints on the internet. The brake pads wear off very quickly within 800 kilometers. Within 1000 kilometers, you'll have to change them and all that. But I got my brake pads changed when I reached 3000 kilometers, and I'm running the second set of the stock brake pads, which are non-ceramic, non-sintered. They're the basic ones. I have one suggestion for anybody who owns Speed T4, or if you're planning to buy Speed T4, make use of the engine braking that this has. This bike has very good engine braking, especially if you're in high speeds. I'm sure that you will have to make use of the engine braking for sure, because it's not a right way to just stop the bike by using just brakes. It's just a good practice whenever you're riding a bike to make use of the engine braking, so that you save the brake pads a little bit. It won't wear out very quickly, and you'll also learn better control. If you want better performance with brake pads, then you can obviously go for sintered ones or ceramic ones. There are no such options from Triumph for Speed T4. Maybe you may have to check some other options from KTM or Royal Enfield bikes, which is the closest fit, and then maybe convince your service center guy what's happening. Road rage, classic road rage. Anyway, as I was saying, you may have to find some other options from Royal Enfield or KTM and convince your service center guy to just install that. But for me, I'm happy with the braking performance that those stock pads are giving me. And I think for most of the people, if you're going with this bike, or even if you're planning to buy this bike, I would assume that you're making the choice because budget is one of the main constraints, right? So that plays a major role. That played a major role for me as well. So assuming that if you are planning to get this, or if you have already gotten this, just put a little more effort in learning how to ride this bike, or maybe building that connection with this bike, understanding each and every components. You don't have to sit and study what this bike has, how this works and all that. Just study the feedback that this bike gives you, especially with the shocks, the seating, the power delivery, the acceleration, the brakes, all these core components. If you can just study the feedback of this and work your way into better riding this, I think you will love this vehicle, because this has a very good engine. Again, this has very good chassis, which are the heart and skeleton of a bike, right? So everything else you can pretty much change. The other drawback in this is the tire, right? So both the tires, basically, they are non-radial tires. They're just regular ones, but they're good for city, and in dry road conditions like this, they're pretty good. It's not like they're cheaper tires and they offer subpar performance or anything like that. They're pretty good for the bike. The minute you go on gravel like this, or in wet roads, or even on highways, if you're speeding in highways, the tires won't give you that much confidence. But that's okay, that's one thing that you're trading off for the price, and you can always change that. And the headlight, right? So the headlight throw is a little lesser than what you would expect. I've gotten a grill, from Legendary Customs. That further reduces the headlight throw by 10 to 12%, I guess. I don't generally ride this bike during night time, but for city it's good. It's bare minimum. It's the same with the tires. It's bare minimum. It's not subpar. It's okay. Another con. How can I miss this? This is something that bothers me, which is the seat. Ever since I got the preload adjustment fixed for the rear suspension, the suspension action has been smoother. I don't have any issues over there, I mean, which is something that I used to complain initially. But now the only thing that I complain every single time I ride this for more than an hour is the seat. It gives you sore bum, you know. You can't continuously sit on the seat for more than 1 hour or a little more than 1 hour. I think the seat could have been a little more softer in my opinion, but it just isn't. For touring experience, you can check out my other video where I've taken this bike all the way from Bangalore to Madikeri. I've spoken about the touring experience in that video, so you can check that out. And in the highways, you'll get a good mileage, so you'll appreciate that as well. The comfortable cruising speed that I've found on this bike is around 100 to 120. Overall, the feeling that this bike gives is really good, and you'll love that, you know, for sure. If you are someone who likes power and also likes the way modern classic looks, but also want the performance of a modern bike, then I think this is a right bike for you. So that's my ownership review of Speed T4. If you like this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more such videos. Please comment your thoughts. If you have any questions, please do put them on the comment, and I'll reply to each and every comment, because this is a hobby for me. I'm really thankful for all the comments, you know, that all of you have left, all of those supportive words as well. I'm really grateful for that, and I'll continue to reply to each and every comment. So yeah, if you have any questions or suggestions, please do put them out there. Stay tuned for the next video. Till then, peace.